Yes, I have, Paul. Thank you very much. I guess about 13 years. So what we're looking at here is our district process for the coming Rotary year 2021 to 2022. A study would begin in 2023. And the district committee, could you back up?
Sure.
Yeah, the district committee currently is myself as chair, and then the district governor, Roger, and the immediate past district governor, Peter, and district foundation chair, Paul, Conrad Heed, and then Jeff Whitfield is a former Peace Fellow. Actually, Jeff is a Rotarian with the Rotary Club of Fort Worth, and he was an inaugural Peace Fellow, not through our district. He was actually a distinguished alumnus of the U.S. Air Force Academy on duty in Arizona, and learned about the Peace Fellow program at Luke Air Force Base and applied for it. Very competitive program. He also won a Fulbright at the same time that he won the Peace Fellowship, and he studied in Bradford, England. So let's go to the next slide. You see Jeff in the upper right-hand corner, Rotary Club of Fort Worth. Another member of that Rotary Club is a more recent Peace Fellow, Kirk Driver. Kirk was actually 1 in 1,000 his year, because as a Rotarian, Jeff was not a Rotarian. He was a U.S. Air Force officer when he got selected. Kirk Driver is a captain in the Fort Worth Police Department, and he got selected for the certificate program. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. But as a Rotarian, he could not receive any funding support from the Rotary Foundation. So the club, Fort Worth Police Department, other sources were willing to provide the funds if he got selected. And they only select one Rotarian per certificate class. And again, they don't get any support. The 2-year program, which is the other track, they do get, there are no Rotarians eligible for that program. Our first Peace Fellow from the district actually was from the Rotary Club of Arlington, Jay Gilliam. And Jay was mentored through that very rigorous process by Jeff, who had already completed his degree and moved on to law school and criminal prosecution at the World Court. And Jay is an honors graduate of Amherst College, studied abroad in Japan, went back, taught English. We asked him to do part of his application in Japanese, not required. He can read and write and speak Japanese, and I thought that would help his process, even though it was not required by Rotary. His disadvantage was that he was young, on the young side, but he was accepted. Cody Griggers was our second selected Peace Fellow from the district. And Cody actually is a Princeton graduate. I had studied there and then gone to Thailand and spent about a decade doing international work in Thailand. And he went to Queensland to do his 2-year degree. Cade Mosley, distinguished alumnus of UT Austin, our South Campus, and Cade did a law degree during 9/11 and got serious about peace studies. He is currently working as a lawyer post-degree in Japan. And then Eva, who was one of Conrad Heed's mentees. And she was, when we interviewed her, she was studying in Israel at the time, and she was in the certificate program too. Next slide. So there are 5 peace centers around the world for earning the master's degree. What you're looking for is a very select, very high quality candidate, male or female, who can, and nobody from our country can go to Duke. So if you're accepted into the Peace Study program, you have to go to a country other than your home country. And so all of the Duke had their 18th graduation last weekend, and all of their students are from all over the world, none here. And Bradford, England, Queensland in Australia, Uppsala in Sweden, we have not had anybody go there. There are 50 candidates selected every year, about 10 or so for each of the peace centers. It's required that they have 3 years of work experience in peace or conflict resolution activities. Military service qualifies for that. Peacekeeping, Kirk driver service qualified for that, although Kirk also, we'll see in the certificate program, had good academics. The sweet spot for the degree program, no, parenting doesn't qualify. And although maybe it should. The average age of the successful Peace Fellow candidate for the degree program is 29 to 30 years old. As I said, Jay Gilliam was on the young side, 25. He did meet the experience requirement, but just barely. Cade Mosley, we told him he was on the old side at 35, but he got in as well. Deadline to the district would be 15 April, a year from now. And this is the current committee. And in the new Rotary year, that will recalibrate. That's the master's degree program. Next slide, Paul.
Okay.
The the other category of program is the 3-month, 10-week, something like that, certificate program. There are currently, there for a long time has been one opportunity for the certificate program in Bangkok, Thailand at Chulalongkorn University. This year, for the first time, we have a second Peace Center in Africa, Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda, and that just opened up. And last weekend, it was announced that the second largest gift to the Rotary Foundation beyond the Gates gift ever came from the Walter Foundation for $15.5 million to place a Rotary Peace Center in the Middle East. And it'll take 2 or 3 years to select the country and the site and settle that in. But there will be expansion of Rotary Peace Centers around the world, and they will be these certificate programs, which are more targeted. So here you're looking for experienced professionals working in peace, conflict resolution, such as peace officers. And the successful candidate in this category is probably like 40 years old. Kirk Driver was on the older side, but as I said, he did get selected 1 in 1,000 in his year. And again, in the new Rotary year, the committee will recalibrate with the new district governor, and Roger will still be on, and Paul, myself, Conrad, and Kirk Driver. Next slide. Timetable, application timetable starts in January for the Peace Fellowships, January 2022. We opened the application process this year, excuse me, 1 February. So looking through the fall for a high quality candidate is a good idea. Encouraging prospects to complete the application. Jay was intimidated by the application. Liz Ann Peters had mentored him along, but through his interactions with Jeff, he got more comfortable with it, and it's a rigorous process. Comes from the club level, club interviews, and then forward those candidates that are worthy onto the district level by the 15th of April. We have not endorsed all candidates that have come to us. Actually, Paul and I worked with one prospective Peace Fellow candidate that ended up being a better fit for a global grant scholarship, and that worked out very well. So we spend time with that in terms of interviewing and working with the candidates. Reviews the application for qualification. There are thousands every year of people that apply for these, but nowhere near that many that are fully qualified and get approved. It's still very competitive. And then in June, the committee will endorse or decline to endorse by 30 June. Next slide. Next slide. And there are two professional program alumni, Captain Kirk Driver and Eva. And this is the web page that Paul has set up for Peace Fellowships on the district website. And I think we still have Jay's blog in there, which is a good thing to take a look at. And you saw the pictures before. By the way, Cody Griggers is an officer serving as a political advising officer, I think, at the UN, New York City, and his area of responsibility is Asia and the Pacific. Next slide. This is the Rotary website, and you can go in and track through either the master's degree program or the professional development certificate program and take a look in more detail at what those programs entail. Next slide. This is a quote from 2006 in the Rotarian from Jack Duvall, founding director of the International Center for Nonviolent Conflict. Those for whom peace is no more than a dream are asleep to the future. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions down here that I missed?
I'd like to add to that.
Conrad?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. Eva Giugillari was a global grant scholar that she was from Turkey, a Muslim female, and went to Israel to study peace and conflict resolution. And then she volunteered her time there for several years, got another master's degree in Israel, and then applied for the Rotary Peace Fellowship. So a lot of our global grant scholars are majoring in peace and conflict resolution. And if you're a club that sponsors such, think about them for a peace fellowship, 3 years down the road. They'd be excellent candidates.
Thank you, Conrad.
Great job, Jim and Conrad. This has been very informative. Sure do appreciate it. Let's see, I guess we can put up our, unless there are any additional questions here. I guess there's a question there about parenting qualifications. So a Peace Fellow could probably not be a child of a Rotarian, I would assume. Is that that may be?
Oh,
the
is
question.
that the question?
Well, I'm not sure if I interpreted it correctly.
Yeah, no, I thought it was.
Or if you could.
But no, you can't. You cannot be. I've had several people ask about their children who are very distinguished but don't qualify. You cannot be connected to Rotary.
But Jim, you had the correct interpretation. Parenting is sometimes a peacekeeping role. That's what the
It is. It is. Yeah.
Oh,
it is.
okay.